Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session on Business Planning in Consolidation, SAP BPC 10.1 Embedded Demo. About the trainer, my name is Vijayalakshmi Balakrishnan, and I have around 25 plus years of experience. I've dealt with data migration, FICO, BPC, BW, BCS, and BODS. Each challenge is an opportunity. Make the best use of it. Change is the only word that doesn't change. Everything else changes. Best thing you can gift another human being is building their self-confidence. Contents of this presentation. Overview. We're going to see the background and the benefits of BPC, an introduction to BPC as a planning and consolidation tool. The benefits of BPC is that it's a centralized process and it has a greater transparency in accounting, and the control over the planning and consolidation activities is at a very high level. The background of BPC is that this product was acquired from Outlook Soft in 2008. It had initially two versions when they acquired it. It was BPC 7.x on Microsoft and on NetWeaver. The later versions was only released on NetWeaver, and 10.0 version of BPC uses Foxcode, Logic Scripts, EPM, and BPC Web Client, whereas 10.1 uses ABAP, BW functionalities, AFO templates, BPC Web Client. The latest version of BPC is 11.1, which focuses more on consolidation features. Group reporting is the product which deals with the consolidation part of BPC, and SAC deals with the planning part of BPC. Introduction to BPC. BPC is a software used for planning and consolidation and reporting. It is used for month-end and year-end activities, and the prime motto is to generate consolidated reports, such as consolidated profit and loss account, consolidated balance sheet, and other reports which are required for the business. Apart from this, we can also do planning and generate various reports like sales planning, revenue planning, cost planning, and so on. Budgeting, forecast, all this can be done. And this tool is used majorly for organizations which have more than one company code and have a structure like parent or child or holding in subsidiary companies. Data in BPC is obtained by an automatic process which loads data from the legacy systems or from the source systems. The source systems can be either SAP ECC or S4 or any other third-party tool from which the data will be loaded into BPC for consolidation and planning. This is the structure of a BPC environment. So the source data lies here, and from here, the master data and the transaction data are loaded into BI or BW, and from there, the data is pulled into BPC. So the back end is data warehouse, which is BW, and the front end is BPC. You have the admin, which is the web client, and the AFO templates, and all in the back end, all the creation is done. And this 10.1 uses HANA as the database. So this is the end-to-end structure of how the data moves. So we get the data from SAP ECC or SAP S4, whichever the source system is. And we load the master data first and then the transaction data into SAP BI. Now the data is stored into SAP HANA Studio, which is the underlying database. And the data is used or pulled into SAP BPC. Now, in SAP BPC, we have two components, which is the web client, which we access via the URL, and the analysis for Office, which we use to generate the input templates or the reports. All the other configuration is done at the SAP BI level or BW level. So creation of ADSOs or info objects, all this can be done at the HANA BW perspective. Now, this is the structure of the SAP system. And what happens here is the ECC has its own development, quality, test, and production systems. And though the HANA database is one system, it has its own properties. Like you have to log in separately into the dev of the HANA system and the quality, test, and production. And then you have the BW development, quality, test, and production. You have the BPC web client, dev, quality, test, and production. And you have AFO, dev, quality, and production. Now, BW is used to do the use the T codes like RSA1, which is the BW workbench, and the RS plan for planning, for creating filters, aggregation levels, and planning sequences, planning functions. And HANA is used to create the aggregation levels at the backend, aggregation levels, composite providers, ADSOs, transformations, all this can be done here. Okay. So what is the month-end, year and year-end processes? So month-end, all the transactions are pulled in from SAP ECC or S4 into BPC. And this happens as a daily load automatic process early in the morning before the business starts. And it can be done on demand also. During the month end, if the data needs to be refreshed instantly, that can be done in on demand. So a request is raised and the load can be done. Or the admin team can load the data as per their wish during the month-end process. Now, the month-end process is as follows. So the finance team closes the period in SAP ECC or S4, and then the BPC process starts. So the data is transferred from or copied into BPC, loaded into BPC. Then off SAP entity data is loaded into BPC. Off SAP are those company codes which are not yet on SAP and don't come through the route of the data being transferred or copied or loaded from ECC or S4 into BPC. So they don't follow that route. They follow a separate route because they're still not on SAP. And they will be uploaded as an Excel file or a CSV file into this BPC system. And the consolidation adjustment entries or journals are posted in BPC. Then the consolidation steps are completed. Then notes to the annual report are completed if it's a year-end process. Then reports are generated and published, signed and published in the annual report. So this is just a vague, high-level description of the activities which is done in BPC. Now, we're going to have a look at the BPC web client. So this is the web client, which is accessed by a URL. And the main screen or the home page will look something like this. And the first icon is the library. You can have favorites stored in public folder, private folder, and Teams folder. And the next one is the activities, my activities, where you will have BPFs or business process flows, which is a set of activities which is designed in such a way that it follows a sequence. So you complete this first step and then go on to the second step and third step. And then if the whole process is complete, then you submit and it goes for approval to your higher manager or the higher person who has requested you to do the steps. Now, those steps or those business process flows are assigned to you if you have to perform them, are assigned to you under my activities. And once you've completed them, you have to click on submit, and then it's approved, and then it's completed. So you don't have to redo it. Okay, and in the same way, you can also, if you're the higher official who has to approve the BPF, which is submitted by your subordinates, then you can approve it or reject it. And whilst rejecting, you have to give a reason for why it is being rejected. Okay, recalculate the numbers or recalculate the figures. This adjustment entry should have a different company code. So, some valid reason has to be given before rejecting, right? The next icon is consolidation. So the consolidation icon has 4 different links to it. One is the consolidation monitor, where it gives you a sequence or an overview of the consolidation activities, which are complete, which are pending, which are yet to start, all the company code wise. Then you have the controls monitor, which is sort of like checking an equation, like assets plus assets is equal to short-term liabilities plus current liabilities plus long-term liabilities, something like that. Where you give a formula to the system, and it calculates, and if the formula is satisfying, then it passes the controls. If not, it errors, or it raises a error message saying that the controls are not being met, and that's where we have to analyze the data and correct it. And the next one is ownership manager. So this is where you declare the percentage of the holding of the parent company in the subsidiary company. How much percentage of shares does the holding company have in the subsidiary companies? And the last one is the journals. You can post adjustment journals on this web client, and that deals with, after analyzing the data, you want to post journals to knock off some entries, then that can be done using this journals option. The next icon is the administration icon. This is where a majority of the configuration happens. And so the first one is modeling. And this is the dimensions or the info objects or the fields. So you have GL account, you have profit center, cost center, all that is done or maintained in the master data here. And then you have models, which is a combination of ADSOs or info areas, and info providers are nothing but ADSOs, where the data is stored. It is something similar to table. Then local queries, where you can write queries to define or generate data. Then we have the security. Security is at the user level, teams level, and at data access profile level. So what data access profiles means is that you can restrict who can see the data based on various permutation and combination. The next in this screenshot is the business process flows. As I've explained before, business process flows are a sequence of activities in which it guides the user to follow one step, complete it, and then go on to the next. It is very useful for the newcomers because they might be lost in doing the steps in sequence, and they might not follow the order. So in such a case, we have these business process flows where it will guide the users to finish the task in sequence and then submit for approval. Then you have rules, which is business rules. You can write rules to sort of like in a tabular format, so that the system picks up this and formulates based on these rules. You have task sequence. Here also you can specify the sequence of tasks and the controls. Controls are nothing but, as I've already explained, a formula is given to the system, and if the formula with the GL accounts, and if the sum of the GL accounts is equal to or less than or greater than whatever the formula is, if the formula is satisfied, then the controls is passed. If not, the controls are failed. Once the controls are failed, then the business and the admin has to look into it and see why it has failed. And if corrective measures are required, they will proceed with that. Audit is the next option here. So we can view who has changed the data, when, for what reason, I mean, which fields were changed. All those minute information can be viewed in the data changes option. Other features available are the work status configuration. Now, like how we have locking a period in ECC or S4, the same option is here in BPC as work status configuration, in which you can lock a period once you know that no further changes needs to be done, or you don't want anybody to mess around with the data. You can use work status to lock the period or whichever data you want. Then is the journals. You can post adjustment entries using the journals. Okay, we're moving on to the next icon, which is the system reports. System reports, you have a BPF, which is the status of all the instances, whether people have completed it or not. Is it pending, yet to start? All those things can be seen in this system report. And then you have the audit changes, data changes, where you can view or generate a report which consists of all the data changes which has been done, who has done it, when, and what. Then you have the work status report, what are the status, whether it's locked or not. Those things can be viewed. And then the activities, all the activities, the status of all the activities can be viewed in this report. Okay. Now, we've seen in the previous screens, dimension management is nothing but the info object or the field, like profit center, cost center. That can be done on the web client. You can add new master data or change the master data in dimension management. And however, in 10.1, if you want to add another field, then it has to be done at the back end in HANA. Okay, not in HANA BW perspective, you have to do that. Or in HANA directly, you can go to the ADSO and you can add. Then model management, that also is done in HANA. And business rules is done in the web client. Controls is done in the web client. Then business process flows are also done in the web client. And process templates, process instances, these are a sequence of steps which guides the user to complete one step after another and submit for approval. And we've seen these options as well: the consolidation monitor, the controls monitor, ownership monitor, and journals. And this is a quick demo of how to log into the remote server and the web client. So here we are logging into the remote desktop. So here, if you see here, that's the web client. So you have to give the user ID and password, or in some organizations, it's single sign-on. So this is the URL in which you can log in, and there you'll be given a password and a user ID and a password. And this is where you do all the admin work pertaining to BPF controls, monitoring, and master data additions to the values or the data additions. And this is where the users also will log in and check what activities are assigned to them. And this is a feature of BPC. And from here, you can call reports or input templates via the BPF. Now, this is the environment. You have to connect to the environment. There are various environments. So once you connect to an environment, then you can access the configuration, the master data, and the transaction data in that environment, specific to that environment. Okay, so here is the main screen where we are seeing, or the home page where we're seeing the icons. So library has all these icons, and my activities will have the BPFs, which are assigned to me if I'm an end user, or if I'm the manager, and then I can approve it. In the consolidation, we've seen that these are all what we've seen in the screenshots. And yes, so we've seen, I've explained all this in the screenshots. And okay, and the system reports. Instances, activity, data changes, and work status. Okay. And we're going to see a BW, which is the backend, to see the data and the planning sequences, creation, and all those stuff. So here we majorly use RSA1, which is the BW workbench, and RS plan to create planning sequences, and SE09 to check the transports, releasing the transports. So these are some of the major transaction codes used. So transport connection is where you create the transport requests. Okay. So SE09 is where you see the transports which you have created to release them. At the moment, I haven't created any. RS plan is where you create the planning sequences, a planning function. So you can planning sequence, aggregation level. So the creation has to be done at the back end in HANA, but you can do modifications or changes to it here. Okay, planning function, planning sequence, all these things. Okay, that's an ADSO and a composite provider, and yeah. So this is how the BW system looks like. Um, and this is analysis for Office, where you can generate reports and input forms where users can input data. And this has the Excel touch because accountants uh, love Excel and they don't want to leave that. So if you see here, there's two additional ribbons, which is the analysis and the analysis design. These two ribbons, these two options in the top green header is the add-ons for analysis for Office. So if you click on that, these are the options available. And so you can insert a data source and you can generate a report or an input template. Okay. Thank you so much for attending this session. And if you have any questions or if you need any further information, please do leave your suggestions in the comments. And see you in the next video. Thank you.